what monster are we doing today?
We're going to
Jason?
go ahead and have some fun with the Kuo-Toa,
The
my good old friend
Kuo-Toa.
from the realm of Call of Cthulhu. If you want to have a touch of Call of Cthulhu in your Dungeons and Dragons, you at least have to have a adventure involving Kuo-Toa. Kuo-Toa are these weird fish people from the deep, deep trenches of the world. They have a profound belief in their god or gods or goddesses or god things. They have the power to will gods into existence if they believe strongly enough. This can be played up for amazing effect. This can also be played up for humorous effect.
Could so they can think of a god,
They if they,
but if they will it into existence
yeah,
by praying to it,
yeah.
could they will something to existence and create what would be a patron for a warlock?
Yes, I would say so.
Could that patron for a warlock then be a patron for a warlock
Yeah.
and bestow
For a
power
warlock
and
Kuo-Toa, that'd be a
and
really awesome idea.
bestow power to them?
I kind of want Kuo-Toa to be a playable race, as I think John would love it.
Probably. All right.
He
wait,
loves his
so
Lokatha too.
so
and his
we
grung.
I do. So we're saying that they could bestow warlock abilities onto someone.
Yeah, it would make
Okay.
perfect sense.
Next bit.
If this was done.
Wait, next bit. So if the Kuo-Toa stop believing in the thing being a god or whatnot, does it lose its power?
Well,
Can they negative will something into not being a god that they themselves created?
first and foremost, within Dungeons and Dragons core rules, throughout all the generations of Dungeons and Dragons, gods derive their power from the worshippers of them. So if there is a god and they lose all worshippers and people stopped believing in that god being a god, that god's powers would start to wane into nothingness.
Okay, now
At which point they could actually eventually result in, if people stopped believing in that god's existence or stopped even knowing of that god, that god dies, and their body falls into the astral plane. So
so they can hypothetically. Sorry, we're getting there. So they can't hypothetically make something into
Yep.
a warlock patron. So and they can stop it from being all powerful afterwards. Does the warlock keep their abilities if their patron should lose its abilities?
that is a good question. As far as the warlock is concerned, there is nothing in it that stipulates exactly how the warlock maintains its powers,
Uh-huh.
but it does kind of stipulate that it may be in danger if the deity they are getting their powers from ceases to do so.
Yeah, okay, but so
It's one
so
of those
then
messed up areas where it's not quite like the paladin or the cleric.
mind you, you could do the same idea with
Yeah.
a paladin, a cleric.
The
You could
pal
debate a sorcerer, but I feel like you'd all in every way say that the sorcerer that's receiving its powers from this would lose its powers.
in the case of the sorcerer, it's
Maybe keep power? I don't know.
in the case of sorcerers, they largely are typically imbued with powers by an accent or by bloodline,
Or by a Kuo-Toa.
or in the case of a sorcerer, they usually have their powers infused into their being,
Yeah.
and it naturally flows through them. Which is why a lot of people make an argument that sorcerer should actually be a constitution
Yeah.
based spellcaster. But in the case of warlock, it's really hard to say exactly what would happen. In the case of the paladin and the cleric, it's more clearly defined that they would lose their powers, and the gods, in fact, could take their power away
Yeah.
if they fail as in the deeds of being a cleric or a paladin.
Yeah.
But in the case of the warlock, it's kind of hinted, but not explicitly stated that the patron can actually take away all the powers.
Okay. All right. Anyways, So, Kuo-Toa.
Go for it.
I mean, you've got... I think that I do have to start because
Go
I
for it.
think that you have much more knowledge on Kuo-Toa.
I like to play them. I like to run them all the time.
So I think that you'll probably have a more interesting encounter than I got here. I've got a very basic encounter in mind. Something that just stays true to the lore of the Kuo-Toa. One moment, let me get my note open. Very, very simple idea here. So basically, you've got Kuo-Toa are defined as these zealots who they get these delusions that can give something power. And my idea is basically that the players are stumbling into maybe a temple of the Kuo-Toa or some habitat where there's a collective of them, hopefully maybe like in an underwater area so we can make it an even difficulter fight based on terrain. But they're all basically chanting or worshiping, if you will, this very large idol, if you will, kind of like a statue. They're all worshiping it. The players arrive during this ritual that's taking place, and slowly the rock idol thing is turning into this either like a demon or some kind of abomination or big beast creature thing, right? So they're doing their ritual thing, creating their god in this way, and then the players are stumbling into it, and now they're potentially, hopefully, trying to put a stop to what's happening there. I'm imagining it would be a fight against the Kuo-Toa themselves. There is multiple already harder variant Kuo-Toa in creation. What was it, the Archmage? Not Archmage?
There's the Archpriest and
Archpriest.
the Matron.
So you could work those in as well into this fight to scale difficulty to go much further than past just for a level 1 or 2 party, right? You could use that to scale it. And then I was thinking you could add in like layer actions as like the ritual is taking place. There could be these additional rocks like feeding power to the big rock, and if the players get too close, it reaches out like shadowy tendrils that lash at them from this thing coming from the ritual, right? Maybe you could also add in another mechanic where you destroy those things, the rocks that are lashing out, and then it is like stalling the ritual. I don't know. There's a lot to do with the idea of you could basically do a number of turns of the ritual taking place, and now they could be fighting that god or creature that's appearing out from this stone pillar or idol or whatnot, right? So primary start ritual is happening. They've got to try and delay or stop it. If ritual goes off, let's say after turn 3, if there is at least one person of the chanting group that's still up, then it would then spawn in the additional thing for the continued fight, right? I think that there's a lot of different routes you could go for loot here. But I think this definitely could be a situation where you can give your players magical items based on if you've got like that priest there, right? Or the mage or so on and so forth. I think it stays true to the general lore of Kuo-Toa. I might have some things a little bit mismanaged, but I think it stays true to the idea there and can create an interesting fight beyond just having like 2 Kuo-Toa row up to your ship in a little lifeboat, and then come on board and start attacking, you know?
You could use that as a setup up to your adventure, because they could have came to the boat, kidnapped a few people, and brought them back to this ritual as sacrifices to the new god that they're forging into existence.
They wake up being like slapped awake by a Kuo-Toa, and they're on this like stone slab with a big old ritual circle around them.
And probably a good extra layer on to what you're going with, and your idea, your statement earlier, is that when they manage to summon forth this new god, these Kuo-Toa, you could have a portion of them start gaining warlock abilities, at first level warlock abilities.
Yeah. Definitely throw an invocation in there too.
Yeah.
Invocations are too fun not to use. Yeah. I think that could be a really nice addition into the Kuo-Toa group, is them actually casting some warlock spells. No, that would be very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. That's my Kuo-Toa encounter.
Alrighty.
What have you got?
Alrighty, first and foremost, Kuo-Toas have the ability to create gods, but they could probably also, if they have the profound enough belief to create gods, you could... Kuo-Toas are pretty much in that Lovecraftian feel in D&D, but if you really wanted to, you could go ahead and grab from another bag of chaos considering that they can create gods, should they be also be able to create their own spells too? Because they have enough power. So if you could just imagine, you could go ahead and borrow a bit of philosophy from Warhammer 40K or Warhammer Fantasy.
I thought you were borrowing from that inspiration of that homebrew we were reading the other day.
Oh. Okay, the commoner homebrew?
No. The other one that Gage was showing us, with the actions that were defined that you basically could replace with anything.
Yeah. Action. Fill in blank.
So, okay. So what's your idea here for this encounter?
So let's just say that these Kuo-Toa have this whole network of rituals, kind of standard for Kuo-Toa. I happen to agree with you that having Kuo-Toa doing rituals in a deep cave or underwater city is pretty standard, and it's pretty much universal to all Kuo-Toa adventures at some point. So it's kind of just a standard fit. You could have Kuo-Toa either swiping people from boats or from towns on the shore, or various things of magical power, or they believe are magical.
Yeah.
It's important to note. Since the Kuo-Toa seem to have the power of belief to create gods, I also just premise that they have the power of belief to create spells.
Okay,
and
I can see
much like, say, the Warhammer orcs, they could then kind of do the gnome / kobold thing and build things.
Okay.
But these things magically work based on their power of belief. So this could be some kind of device that your artificer could pick up. It literally should not work, and yet it shoots out beams like Eldritch Blast.
Yeah.
So
you just gave me a terrible idea.
Yeah. So you could have your Kuo-Toa assembling magic items that only work in their hands. Otherwise, they're completely dud. Because they have the power of belief. Imagination is the key to victory.
Can I expand your idea there?
Yeah.
Imagine that you make Kuo-Toa a playable species, and then from there you go a Kuo-Toa artificer, and then you do literally that idea of all of your contraptions. It's not actually working because you're an artificer. It's literally just a Kuo-Toa making their own magic items through their own little belief system.
Yeah. So, the Kuo-Toa might be just collecting things, using rituals to manufacture spells. So you could have magical boots, try to crush the party, coming out of the sky. You can have all kinds of stuff. So this is more of less a true event and more of just playing around with the fact that the Kuo-Toa imagines shit.
Yeah.
Because, as I said before, it's pretty standard to have them doing rituals, kidnapping people, being in the sea, etc., etc. Yeah. They're kind of old hat with that. So you can't really wander too far away from that.
Otherwise, you're really deviating from their lore.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a problem there. So my scenario is basically just like his, but instead you have Kuo-Toa's creating idols that happen to be weaponry or armor or objects that grant spells, and these spell objects only work for them. This is the magical flame tongue arrows that break when the party uses them or want to use them, or the enemies that have magic items that break.
The enemy that's getting a sunblade.
Yeah, sunblade.
That's for them. It's just like this little stick that then comes out to basically a lightsaber.
Yeah.
But the lightsaber don't turn on when the players use it because.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the power of imagination in their blood.
Yeah. Imagination makes world flow and go for the Kuo-Toa. So you expand the Kuo-Toa's power of creating gods into creating magic items and spells and all kinds of crazy stuff. But you can also have them create gods, and you can have those gods take on aspects like the Great Sandwich, where the Great Sandwich attacks enemies by pulling out condiments and hitting them, or the Rat Golem God, which hucks bags of rats at enemies, or a net dispensing god that nets its enemies, the party as it comes up.
Yep.
So you could have absolutely amazingly ridiculous gods, and their gimmick is the dumbest thing ever. Like the god that endlessly barfs.
That's why you don't piss off a tribe of Kuo-Toa.
Yeah, you could have a god that endlessly barfs nets or ball bearings or caltrops at enemy at the party, making things difficult. And it's basically just a piñata they had to beat down.
Oh no.
So if the rituals go a little too long,
then things go bad.
Things go weird and bad.
That would make a really interesting arc of a campaign, is dealing with the Kuo-Toa that is angry with your group, that are constantly creating things.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But that's it, what I've got for Kuo-Toa. How about you?
The thing on the I would end out on, say, like the rituals, is probably have every turn be a phase in the ritual.
Yeah.
And have an effect occur on that turn. The first turn obviously has nothing. The second turn, the god might
tentacled arms bursting out.
Yeah, use like a effect like a stones rise up and nets dispense from the stones at the party, or the bags of rats that's come out of the stones, or statues, or portals to a plane of statues that hop around in circles, causing the 5-foot area around them to become difficult terrain for the party to stand or run through. Because Kuo-Toas have a dancing god because they were super fascinated by this festival on the coastline, people dancing.
The Festival of the Moon.
Yeah.
Walk.
Yep. So the Kuo-Toas, there's this inflexibility that they're aquatic people that stink and are ugly and have imaginations that can create gods. But if you expand upon that, use that base, you can come up with all kinds of crazy shit. And you could also go with his pre-idea before his scenario, where even those gods
the warlock
can give,
or cleric or whatever are receiving their power from the Kuo-Toa god.
Yeah, the Kuo-Toa god, the new Kuo-Toa god giving the Kuo-Toa's warlock abilities.
Yeah.
But if you could also homebrew really dumb warlock abilities, like the warlock of the net, or the warlock of the sandwich, or warlock of the bag of rats.
Yeah.
So Or the warlock of fishing.
The warlock of friendship.
So, oh my goodness, that would actually go very well with my my Kuo-Toa scenario. That had all the Kuo-Toas are wearing different color shirts.
Yep.
Shirts. You can kind of have them go with the power of friendship, fight the party.
I'm shooting him with the power of friendship.
Like a stick that shoots heart beams, aims at the party. Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, you're taking 2d12 radiant damage.
No, you're taking 2d12 love damage.
Yep.
You feel really warm inside.
Too warm.
Make a wisdom a charisma saving throw. Sorry. 3 fails. All of a sudden,
You feel too infatuated to attack.
yeah, all of a sudden the Kuo-Toa seems to be very loving and caring about you as they throw stuff at you. Maybe they're trying to help you break away from the party.
Maybe. Alright, that's Kuo-Toa's from me.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Have a delightful day and a
Wonderful night.
wonderful night.
Have a good one.
Alrighty.